Ladies and gentlemen, the world may be watching the giants, but it's the quiet strategist, the calm in the storm, that's reshaping the future. That nation is Canada. In a world defined by chaos, economic warfare, and global realignment, Canada is not merely surviving, Canada is winning, but how? Let's break it down. While the world spirals into a frenzy of short-term gains and emotional decisions, Canada stands as a nation that refuses to be rushed. In an era where immediacy is worshipped and patience is mistaken for weakness, Canada has mastered the art of strategic patience. When other nations scramble to secure volatile deals, chasing headlines instead of outcomes, Canada took a breath, stepped back, and calculated the long-term impact. It didn't panic when economies tumbled. It didn't flinch when global powers rattled sabers. It moved deliberately, thoughtfully, and with fierce precision. And that patience is now paying off. You see, while others were building sandcastles during a storm, Canada was laying down the foundation of a fortress. It understood that great power isn't built overnight. True dominance isn't forged in the noise of public spectacle. It's built in silence behind closed doors through intelligent negotiation and strategic restraint. Canada saw what others missed, that the game isn't won in the first quarter. It's won in the final moments when most players have exhausted their options. That's when patience turns into power. When nations around the world threw themselves into reckless energy policies, Canada invested in sustainability. When others made knee-jerk decisions on trade, Canada observed, waited, and then struck deals that ensured long-term security and diversification. It didn't just act, it outweighed the chaos. In a global economy flooded with impulsiveness, Canada made its move with discipline, and now the results are undeniable. It holds critical leverage in key sectors. It has trade partners clamoring for reliability, and it's seen not as a follower of trends, but as a setter of standards. But let's be clear, patience is not passivity. Patience is power in its most controlled form. It is the refusal to be manipulated by fear. It's the ability to absorb pressure without breaking, to watch others fall into traps of their own making while you quietly build your advantage. Canada understood that real leadership is not about showing forth. It's about choosing when not to use it. It's about knowing that sometimes the strongest move is no move at all, until the moment is perfect. In global politics, in economic diplomacy, in internal resilience, Canada has displayed a mastery of timing. And timing is everything. You have resources, alliances, innovation, but without timing you lose. And that's where Canada wins. It has played the long game in a short-sighted world. It has remained calm while others screamed. It has moved strategically when others stumbled. And now, as the dust settles, Canada is not the nation gasping for air. It's the one standing tall with strength, with stability, and with a plan that was never meant to win the moment. It was built to win the game. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is the raw, unstoppable power of strategic patience. And it is rewriting the rules of global influence one silent, powerful step at a time. In a world tearing itself apart with division, hostility, and self-interest, Canada made a decision that changed everything. It chose connection. While others were building walls, both literally and figuratively, Canada was building bridges. And not just diplomatic bridges, but economic, cultural, and strategic bridges that now form the backbone of its unstoppable rise. At a time when nationalism surged and isolation became a trend, Canada leaned into its greatest strength, unity. It saw what others refused to see, that in a globalized world, survival belongs not to the loudest or most aggressive, but to the nation most trusted, most respected, and most welcome. While world powers turned inward, slamming shut the doors to opportunity, trade, and collaboration, Canada opened theirs. It diversified its partnerships with vision. Instead of depending on one market, one superpower, or one economic engine, it reached out to Asia, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. not with arrogance but with respect, and the world responded. Why? Because Canada didn't come with demands, it came with solutions. It didn't come to dominate, it came to collaborate. And in that humility, it earned something rare in global politics: genuine trust. Trust can't be bought. It's not won through force or loud speeches. It's earned through consistency, character, and clarity of purpose. And Canada has offered all three. Nations now look to Canada as a reliable partner, not a disruptor, not a manipulator, but a stabilizer. While alliances elsewhere crumble under pressure and mistrust, Canada's relationships grow stronger, more resilient, more vital. Because when you build bridges, you create pathways for trade, for ideas, for influence. And when others' walls begin to crack, your bridges become the only way forward. That's why investors are looking north. That's why global companies are setting up shop in Canadian cities. That's why international students, families, and entrepreneurs are choosing Canada, not just as a destination, but as a foundation for their future. Because Canada is more than a country now. It's a symbol of what the future demands: openness, adaptability, and a genuine commitment to the greater good. And understand this, these bridges aren't soft power fluff. They are hardened assets in the great game of global strategy. Every trade agreement, every foreign talent attracted, every diplomatic win, these are not accidents. They are the direct result of a strategy built on inclusion, on cooperation, and on the courage to swim against the tide of global fear. While others are isolated and reactive, Canada is connected and proactive. And those connections, they don't just amplify Canada's voice, they protect it. They expand its influence. They make Canada the center of conversations it once watched from the sideline. Because in a world where no one trusts each other, the trusted become kings. And Canada, through diplomacy, through openness, through the unshakable belief that unity is strength, is quietly becoming the most powerful player in the game. Not by force, not by fear, but by being the bridge everyone else forgot to build. Canada holds something most countries envy, but few truly understand: natural resources that aren't just valuable, they're vital to the future. But what separates Canada from resource-rich nations that remain stuck in the past is this: Canada doesn't just harvest, it transforms. It doesn't just extract minerals or pump oil. It turns its natural blessings into geopolitical leverage and long-term power. In a world desperate for energy security, food security, and climate stability, Canada is emerging not just as a supplier, but as a strategic force, because it made one critical decision: to fuse its natural wealth with innovation. While many countries overexploit their lands for short-term profit, Canada took a different route. It chose to protect, to sustain, and to modernize. It made investments in renewable energy, clean tech, and smart agriculture. Not as political theater, but as a national strategy. This isn't about going green to follow trends. This is about owning the future markets before anyone else gets there. Green hydrogen, carbon capture, rare earth minerals essential for electric vehicles and AI tech. Canada isn't reacting to the energy transition, it's leading it, and let's talk agriculture. In a time when global food systems are cracking under pressure, when droughts and climate shocks threaten entire regions, Canada's agricultural power, fueled by innovation, scale, and sustainability, is becoming a lifeline for the planet. Its vast fertile lands are no longer just national assets. They are global necessities, and Canada knows it. That's why it's not just exporting crops. It's exporting reliability. It's exporting the promise of a secure food chain in an insecure world. The world is waking up to the fact that the next wars won't be fought over ideology. They'll be fought over resources, clean air, clean water, food, minerals. And Canada sits at the crossroads of all of them. But instead of hoarding, instead of exploiting, it's managing with discipline. It's partnering with allies. It's negotiating from a position of quiet dominance because everyone knows, whether they say it out loud or not, that Canada holds cards no one else can afford to lose. And the brilliance lies in how Canada is positioning these resources, not just as commodities, but as leverage, strategic leverage in trade deals, diplomatic leverage in alliances, economic leverage in attracting industries that require stability and access. The tech giants, the electric vehicle manufacturers, the AI labs, they aren't looking at unstable regions anymore. They look at North. They look at Canada because it offers something rare in today's chaotic global landscape: certainty backed by abundance. This is not luck. This is not inherited privilege. This is strategy executed with intelligence and long vision. The world is running out of safe bets. But Canada is turning its earth, its water, and its energy into an empire of influence. And that's why the future doesn't just include Canada, it depends on it. Power today doesn't always wear a crown or roar through megaphones. Sometimes true power walks silently, acts deliberately, and lets its results echo louder than any headline. That's Canada. In a time when nations chase attention like currency, when leaders trade wisdom for applause, Canada has embraced something radical: quiet confidence. And in doing so, it's rewriting the rules of what influence looks like. While others scream their victories, Canada builds silently. While others boast of strength, Canada shows it calmly, methodically, with impact that needs no introduction. This quiet confidence isn't timidity. It's control. It's the kind of composure that only comes when a nation knows exactly who it is and where it's going. Canada doesn't need chaos to feel relevant. It doesn't need enemies to feel strong. It simply performs on the global stage, in boardrooms, in scientific labs, and in the hearts of those who choose to call it home. The numbers don't lie. Canada is attracting global talent at record speed, is becoming a hub for innovation, clean tech, and advanced industries. And while others fracture under internal division, Canada grows stronger because it chooses inclusion over noise, unity over drama. Look at its cities, thriving multicultural powerhouses where diversity isn't just a slogan, it's the operating system. Look at its educational system, world-class universities feeding global industries. Look at its tech scene, booming with startups that don't just compete but lead. And through it all, Canada remains grounded. It doesn't need to remind the world of its presence. The world already knows. Because in an age where attention is currency, Canada chose to invest in substance, not spectacle. And this is what makes Canada dangerous to those who underestimate it. It doesn't show all its cards, it doesn't flex for the camera, but when the moment comes, when decisions are made, when partnerships are formed, Canada's voice is not only heard, it's respected, because it earned that respect not with theatrics, but with results. Its economic resilience, its global trust, its social cohesion, these aren't happy accidents. They are a result of choosing competence over chaos, clarity over confusion, and confidence over noise. Canada knows that storms pass. Hype fades, but foundation that endures. So while other nations exhaust themselves in a race for attention, Canada paces itself for the marathon. And when the dust clears, when the shouting stops, it's not the nation with the loudest voice that wins. It's the one that built the strongest future, and Canada has done just that, not with headlines, not with bluster, but with quiet focus, relentless progress, because true power doesn't need to announce itself. It just arrives. Canada has arrived, and the world is finally paying attention to the country that never begged for it, because now it leads without even raising its voice. In a time when the world is bleeding trust and drowning in deception, Canada's greatest strength is not its economy, not its geography, not even its resources. It is its values. In the ruthless game of global dominance, most nations sacrifice principle for profit. But Canada has flipped the script. It has turned values, honesty, integrity, freedom, justice into a strategic weapon. While others burn down their moral compasses for momentary gain, Canada is showing that long-term power belongs to those who stand for something unshakable. This isn't idealism. This is precision-engineered strength, forged in principle and proven in action. Because when the dust of political theater settles, when the fake promises collapse, what do people, what do nations actually seek? They seek fairness. They seek stability. They seek a partner they can trust when everything else breaks down. And Canada, in its quiet discipline, has become exactly that. It doesn't need to manipulate. It doesn't need to dominate. It leads by example. And in a world where leadership is often defined by fear and force, Canada leads by character, and that makes it untouchable. Think about it. When multinational companies look to expand, when global citizens look for a future, when countries look for reliable allies, they don't turn to the loudest, the flashiest, or the most aggressive. They turn to the most consistent, the most stable, the most fair. And time again, that answer is Canada, not because it chases perfection, but because it refuses to abandon its principles, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Canada's legal system doesn't bend to corruption. Its elections are trusted. Its people are protected by laws that don't exist in many parts of the world. Freedom of speech, of religion, of identity. They're not political talking points in Canada. They're guarantees, and those guarantees have created something powerful. A brand that's bigger than oil, bigger than trade, bigger than politics. A brand that tells the world, here you are safe. Here you are seen. Here you are respected. And that is the most valuable form of power in the modern age. Because the future will not belong to the biggest armies or the noisiest governments. It will belong to the nations that inspire trust, that offer certainty, that refuse to crumble in the face of corruption. And as the world stumbles through uncertainty, people are watching. They're searching for leadership that doesn't just talk, but delivers. And they're seeing a nation that rises without stepping on others, that gains influence without losing its soul. That nation is Canada. It's not about image. This is about essence. Canada has shown that you don't need to betray your values to become powerful. You just need the courage to live by them. In doing so, Canada didn't just build a strong nation. It built a moral superpower. And in the game of global influence, that is the most dangerous advantage of all. So when people ask, how is Canada winning? Tell them this, it's not just winning with tactics, it's winning with vision. While others play checkers, Canada is mastering chess. And in the end, it's not the noisiest player who wins the game. It's the one who understands it best. Ho wins the game. It's the one who understands it best. Cannavaro understands the game, and make no mistake, Eninder is winning it.